Okay, now that we've gone ahead and installed our trigger components or updated them and tightened that up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this pistol, which is pretty much the reverse of the disassembly we did in the other video. One thing that I use a lot when I'm working on these is some form of little container to keep my very small parts in. For instance, our safety spring and our safety detent, which, as I said, are incredibly easy to lose. And we're going to start with replacing them. We have our safety positioned correctly, and we can see that there's a little channel there that's made by the two grip pieces. Our ball slides down into that channel. And I don't know that we'll be able to see it on the camera, but I'm able to see it sitting at the bottom there. Our spring, which I left right here, then goes on top of the ball, like so. And when we reassemble the grip frame to the main tube, we're going to go ahead and simply, after we line everything up, roll it onto there such that it captures that spring and that ball. And that is something that we can either do before or after we put together the upper assembly. When we were disassembling, we took the upper apart together and then took it apart. There's no reason why we can't do it the other way. Since we have that spring and ball in here, I'm going to go ahead and put these together. Once we get them assembled, need to hold them there and line up your holes between the frame and the receiver tube. There are our screws for that. And we go ahead and start those with our fingers. Takes a little bit of sensitivity there to find that. And it can be easier too. We're actually not going to be able to start with the back one because we have to put the plug in the back, and that's what that mounts to. But I will go ahead and take our square bit that we talked about. That's a number 2 square. And we'll go ahead and fasten down this front screw. I use the hole in back to tell visually whether or not I'm lined up. And it looks like I should be. And yep, we're going in. Being careful to try not to damage the finish on the front of the trigger guard. And at the same time, not let this come up enough that that spring might start to slip around the side of that tube. Let's see how we did. Looking good. Hey, safety clicks back and forth decisively. So far, so good. On to the next part. Okay, so once we have our grip frame assembled with our main tube, hammers back in, inserted our hammer pin, let this all slide forward, and we will go ahead and rejoin these components. Before we put them back together, we do need to go ahead and slide our bolt in here. And that's one of the tricky parts of these rear breech screw assemblies, is our bolt is moving around in there while we put things together. So let's go ahead and release the safety so I can come back. The goal here is going to be to put the transfer port in. The short end, short side, goes downwards into the gasket or the breech seal towards the valve, and the longer portion faces up towards the barrel. I've lined up the barrel and the hole there with the hole in the breech. My goal here is going to be to slip it over the pin in the hammer pin, and the transfer port, and get these lined up here. So we'll go like this, and like I said, the bolt is right in the middle there. There we go. Pretty good. Not too bad. I think we're pretty well lined up. Where's that bolt? Bolt is ahead of the hammer, and it does slide far back enough to let us get the breech screw in, which is what we'll do next. And our breech screw again uses an 0.50 inch Allen key. And we want to be very careful that we don't cross thread this. So we need to make sure we're lined up right and that there's no tension on this as it goes in. That's feeling really good right there. And then I want to make sure it's all the way seated. And we'll go back and finish this later. All right, looking good on that. I'm going to snug up this barrel band. You'll see a little detent where it was sitting before. Go ahead and tighten that. You don't have to get these real tight. We'll go back later and make sure everything's snug. Okay. Bolt sliding easily back and forth. Drop the trigger, hammer moves forward, and we are looking pretty good. Next thing we're going to do is get our hammer spring. And in addition to that, we'll want the rear grip frame screw, the back of the breech has a little cover that the screw slides down through and secures. The back of the main tube is drilled and tapped on both sides. Goes in like this. We're going to slide through, compressing the spring. And when I do that, I want my rear screw, which I then slide down through both of them, and I can feel it beginning to thread into the rear main tube cap there. So let me get a straight blade back, and let's do that for a second. Now that we have this started, we're going to go ahead and seat this rear grip frame screw. So to do that, we go back to our number 2 square. It is under spring pressure, and it is at a weird angle, so sometimes it takes a second to get it to cooperate. Yeah, there we go. All right, very good. Okay, we should be functional. Next thing we have to do is put our hammer back in our bolt. Bolt has the ability to be rolled, so just get it to a spot where you can see the hole, usually near the notch, so you got more room, and very carefully thread that back in. Again, careful not to cross strip. And ooh, yeah, safe direction, bang. Ooh, that's good too, much improved. Oh yeah, very nice. Well, it's pretty self-explanatory how to get the grips back on. And other than that, we should probably wrap it up. So thanks for joining me on Al's Air Guns. If you haven't subscribed, we'd sure appreciate it if you do. Welcome to make a comment, give us a thumbs up, down, whatever you feel is appropriate. And hopefully we'll see you again. Thank you.